Welcome to Garden Sanity. I'm Laura and I garden in Zone 7, Southern New Jersey. Today's video is all about Pugster Butterfly Bushes, also called Buddleia. And what Pugster are they're these short, stalky, dwarf size butterfly bushes that are fantastic for your garden. They're hardy in zones 5 to 9 and they come in 5 wonderful colors. They come in a white, they come in a pink, but there's an improved version now called pinker, which is, as you can guess by the name, more pink. They come in periwinkle, also blue, and the final color is amethyst, which is what this is and what I have, what I'm going to use as my demonstration today to tell you about these amazing shrubs. So right off the bat, I want to tell you that these are deer and rabbit resistant. So that's great for any of us that deal with deer and or rabbit issues. And what does make this a great shrub? In zones 5 through 9, if you've grown full-size butterfly bushes, you may have suffered with some, or your plants may have suffered with some winter dieback if the winters are harsh or you have freezing temperatures. These have much thicker stems than other dwarf butterfly bushes. So those thicker stems are going to mean it's going to survive better. You leave them standing during the winter time and you aren't going to prune them until the springtime. When you prune them, you're going to wait until you see some new growth and then you're going to prune, and I'm going to have a video for you next spring on how to do that, so you can stay tuned for that. But they have thicker stems, so if you've had some dieback on regular size or other dwarf sizes of butterfly bushes, plant these. They should do really well for you. Now, in terms of planting, there's a few issues I want to talk about. So gardeners, we do most of our planting in the spring, and more, we're doing a lot of planting in the fall. If you're in zones 5 and 6, refrain from planting Pugster butterfly bushes in the fall, just in case. Your winters sometimes get a little too cold, a little too freezing. The roots might not be established as much as you need them to be if you plant them in the fall. So for zones 5 and 6, I'd suggest planting them in the spring. They'll be fine. And that's what I did this year. I planted mine in June and they're going to be just fine sailing through this winter. Now the other thing is if you have clay soil. Now what I did with this bed is a little bit of a digression, and I'll have a video at the end to show you how I built this bed. We have horrible clay soil, but what we did before we planted one single plant is we amended the soil in this bed, and we mixed it all in with the native soil, let it sit for a while, and then we planted plants. If you have an existing garden bed that has clay soil, what you can do is you can plant these just a little bit higher than you normally would. So if the soil is here and you normally would plant the crown flush with the soil, you're going to plant it just slightly higher, almost to make a very tiny slight mound going away from the plant. And that way, when it rains, the water will run away and you won't have to worry about the clay soil underneath just holding all that water down. The only thing you ever need to do when you're planting is put biotone in the hole or another starter fertilizer. Don't ever put compost or anything like that, especially with butterfly bushes, into the soil when you're planting at planting time, because they don't need it. They actually like a leaner soil and they'll be just fine. So the variety I've planted here is Pugster Amethyst, and it has absolutely beautiful amethyst flowers. Now here's what it looked like when I first planted it in June. And here it is almost 2 weeks later. And you can see how already it was getting a little bit bushy, a couple of blooms, couple of buds. And here it is today, almost 2 months after planting. It's just beautiful. It almost looks like one shrub. There's 2 planted here. But I like that they're growing into each other and they look absolutely beautiful. Now let's talk about the flowers. The flowers on all of the Pugster butterfly bushes, no matter the color, look very giant. I mean, they're full-size giant flowers that you would see on a full-size butterfly bush, but on a tiny shrub. And I wish YouTube had Scent-O-Vision because there's a honey fragrance that is so delectable. It's very subtle, but it's there. And what's really nice is even though these are dwarf size, they still put out the amount of honey fragrance that my full-size butterfly bush does. So I absolutely love that. Now, another thing to know about the flowers is you're going to see them from spring through frost. Yes. So that rivals a lot of annuals and perennials. You know, gardeners love to plant annuals to have that constant color throughout the garden as your perennials and shrubs go in and out of flower as the gardening season goes on. But butterfly bushes will bloom non-stop. So the size of the shrub is 2 feet tall by 2 feet wide. That's the mature size. And I do notice this one's slightly taller than this one. No big deal. But it makes it perfect for tucking in among other perennials, other annuals, even next to some shrubs or in front of some taller flowering shrubs. In fact, I'm thinking of doing that in the front yard. I have little lime hydrangeas, and I've tried different plants. Periodically, I've tried annuals, I've tried different perennials, but I think I'm going to do these because the little lime hydrangeas get a lot of water, which is great. And then in front of them, it's a little bit drier, and this would be perfect to have as a border plant in front, having constant color even before the little lime hydrangeas are fully in bloom. So that's what I'm thinking of. I just need to decide on a color. I really am partial to amethyst, but I may go with pinker, I think. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that. So a few other points about the Pugster series of butterfly bushes. They take full sun, they're low water, they're very heat tolerant, and we have humidity like crazy here. So although they do well in drier climates, they do super well in humidity. I can vouch for that because all summer our humidity has been off the charts. And I know it has been for many of you. So again, it's another reason to consider butterfly bushes in general, but the dwarf size fit in and tuck in nicely anywhere. Being that Pugster butterfly bushes are heat tolerant, humidity tolerant, drought tolerant, they are perfect for a drought tolerant bed like this one. And pollinators love them. So you're going to have bees, butterflies, hummingbirds. They love this plant, and it's perfect for a pollinator garden. So you can tuck this in just about anywhere and it'll do well. Now, in terms of the blooms, you don't have to deadhead these. I repeat, you don't have to deadhead. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. And I have not done that because I wanted to test it out for myself, and I love to deadhead to make things nice and neat. But these all keep producing blooms no matter what. And I'll show you close up here. You have full blooms, you have spent blooms, and you have new buds for new blooms, all without any deadheading whatsoever. Now, if you want a deadhead, I'll show you how simple it is. You can take snips, because the ends of the stems that hold the flowers are rather thin, and you can just snip off right below that flowering stem and you'll be fine. But you really don't have to do this, and I don't think I'm going to, because it looks absolutely beautiful as is. Now, as I mentioned earlier, pruning in the springtime. You're going to wait till you see a few buds on your butterfly bushes. You're going to leave them standing during the winter. Do not prune in the fall at all, because that actually gives them a much harder chance of surviving the winter, especially in the colder zones, like I mentioned, zones 5 and 6. So you want to leave them standing in the winter. They'll provide nice winter interest if you leave these on to dry. And then in the spring, once you see new growth, that's when you're going to prune, and I'll have a video next spring all about that. In the meantime, what you can watch is you can watch how I built this bed, and you can see all the pollinator flowers and plants that are in this bed that have drawn hummingbirds, bees, moths, butterflies, you name it, and birds, other birds than hummingbirds, to this bed. Until next time, happy gardening.